Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about and sharing our experiences of the journeys we've each taken so far with the delights of bullet journaling.
Okay, so we've each kind of started on this bullet journaling journey, which is harder to say than you think it's going to be. I believe actually my first experience of bullet journaling came from following Jonny on Pinterest. I think you pinned something. I was like, ooh, this looks exciting. And so I kind of like, ooh, what is this? And started watching videos. And then I think we had a conversation and realised that all three of us use this,
yes,
which is quite interesting.
But we've never spoken about it.
Yeah.
So how did you come across it, Jonny?
Just my normal looking around going, that looks interesting. Oh, I like writing things. Oh, let's move away from electronic things.
Yeah,
oh,
like
let me use
notebook
my
people,
pen and
aren't we?
paper.
We all like a good notebook as well. I think there's that whole thing of, wow, this could be fun.
I've never found an app or an electronic device that has the ability to keep up with the speed that I think has as fast as a pen and paper, because you can just stop and do something else and come back to it. It's not flicking through screens or selecting fonts or generally pissing about.
And I was a massive fan of Stephen Covey's What Matters Most, and that was amazing, but that was like 80s and 90s, and you just carry around this brick full of paperwork. And yeah, major efficiency, ability to get things done and doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And then with the evolution of smartphones, try to switch over to digital, and it's never quite delivered that level of organisation for me. So when I saw Jonny scribbling away at his desk, I was like, that looks interesting. And I then had a look at bullet journaling and have just found it the perfect integration between my digital tools and the need to write stuff down.
So maybe this would be a good time to actually explain what bullet journaling is. I know that I've written a few posts about it. Jonny's shared things on Pinterest and writing posts about it. If anyone isn't sure, now is probably a good time before we go into more detail to stop whatever they're doing and click on some of the links in the description just to get an idea, because this is a podcast and it will make it a lot clearer and a lot easier to understand if you have actually seen a bullet journal. Any of the places people could go?
Yeah, obviously there's the actual bullet journaling website, and in the links below you'll be able to find access to that and some stuff that we've written and posted on it. But I suppose in its most fundamental sense it is a to-do list, but it's a kind of systemized to-do list that makes making notes and tasks very quick and easy, and you get that joyous experience of ticking them off, which not to be underestimated how satisfying that is. But it also comes with a set of symbols and way of categorizing things that mean you don't lose track of stuff, and you're always capturing things that you need to do, even if you don't need to immediately do them then.
I think as well, it's got to the point for me where if I don't see like my monthly overview and I can roughly work out and see on one sheet of paper, because I still carry a paper diary, but it's like a pay a day. People are starting to look at me like that. I like writing things down. I like seeing things. I have a very visual mind, and I like seeing things written out and planned out, and I like tables and spreadsheets and things. But actually having things on a computer, I have numerous windows open all the time on my internet, trying to look at lots of different things at the same time. And for me, bullet journaling gives me a really nice overview and kind of keeps everything together. So having seen okay, so what am I doing this month, and writing little things for each day, not the whole, this is what my calendar is, makes me think, okay, well, the next 2 weeks are really busy, or I need to be careful about this week because actually I don't really want to book any more meetings in here. And I think that really helps to kind of see a visual overview, and also when you're unsure of what you've actually done, to be able to go back and say, well, actually 3 weeks ago I was worrying about this, this and this, and I've done that and that's sorted, and look how far I've come since then, really helps.
Yeah, and I think it's really good. I always make the effort, even if I think of something that I'm actually kind of doing, I make the effort to write it down for that reason and then tick it off, so that when you do go, where the hell has my day just gone? And you look back through and go, I was actually doing stuff. And as well, I'll have a look for some more of this and put it in a link, but there's some really good research about the likelihood of you actually attempting a task and doing a task when you physically write it down. And you are a number of times more likely to do something if you physically write it down than if you just think about it.
And I think there are a few misconceptions around this. Me and Pennie were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Pennie and her multiple bullet journals. About the fact that actually there's this misconception, particularly with people who've picked it up who do scrapbooking.
Yes.
Like, there are a number of ways you can use it, and I'm not saying that's the wrong way, but if you're going to use this as a practical thing, it's about finding a way that works for you. It's not a scrapbook, and that's, or I personally don't use it as that. And I think if I was going to have a scrapbook bullet journal, it would look very different to my day-to-day bullet journal.
Yeah, so I kind of I'm massively, like, my job means that I shouldn't be creative because it's very functional, but I'm actually a very creative person. So when I had a look online, I was really interested. There's some like beautiful journal blogs, really, really artistic, people that can draw. They break up their spreads on a day or a month, and they just look like works of art. And I started to do that because that really
I'd love to be able to do that, yeah.
But the first time I went to a meeting, I just felt really embarrassed because there I am meant to be discussing about a global program, and I've got like lacy pictures and stuff all over my journal. So I then went back to the original form. But I think what is amazing about it is that it is actually a way of getting things done for creatives or analytical or task focused.
And I think if I was going to do something, like, I know some people organise their whole family around it, and they do beautiful like pictures and they add things in there, and they're things to hold on to, they're memories. And I think if you're going to do that, that's fine, but you need to understand that takes a lot more time, and maybe isn't, if you're working from home and you don't have to go to meetings and you don't have to travel, maybe that is practical. But I find actually the times where it really helps me are the times when I'm travelling or I'm sat on a train and I need to use my time effectively, and I don't always have the right colour pen or the right, and that doesn't really bother me. I just want to be able to get ideas down and write it and track things.
I found that the same as well. So what I also found was, like trying something new, you need to build that habit. There's different reports about it takes 21 days to create a new habit, or some say 30. And what I found was the more exquisite I made my spread look, the less likely I was to be able to fit it in time.
Yeah.
So I've now got a journal that's got my lists and ideas, and they're the bits that I make pretty and artistic and creative, and then my daily getting things done is just gone straight right back to the basics of the bullet journaling by the original creator.
I think it's worth saying that we are not experts in this. This is something we've just decided that we want to do, and we enjoy doing, and we found it useful, and that's why we want to share it. We each do this in very different ways, which I think is quite interesting, because I think people look at some of these posts, or they look at, oh, well, so-and-so does it like that, and they think, oh, I could never do that, or why do you do this? And I think it's really interesting that we track and use it in different ways, but we are by no means experts in this.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's very grassroots, and people are adapting and coming up with ways that work for them, and then sharing in this incredibly generous online community that can be found in a number of different places. Sorry, Jonny.
Oh, thanks. To feed into that is, a lot of people get hung up on this sort of stuff, and I think this is what we're going to be doing going forward, is obviously by providing 3 different perspectives on things, giving people that understanding that it is try it out and do it and find the way that works for you, but also all of this stuff, it's a means to an end. I think a lot of people look at a bullet journal and think that what they're trying to create is a bullet journal. Whereas actually, your bullet journal is a way of facilitating, giving yourself a better chance of remembering all the stuff you want to do and getting the stuff done. And even the simple task of writing all your stuff down at the start of the day and then looking at it and going, there's no way I'm going to get all of that done.
Yes.
And writing like little times of how long you think it's going to take next to each thing.
I have that from the other week.
There aren't that many hours in a week, let alone a day.
I had to literally plan back from the time I needed to leave the house, because I was like, right, I'm never going to fit half of these things in. And I think there is that realisation of actually what's a priority and what needs to get done today and what doesn't. And I think it does help. There's nothing more satisfying than writing your weekly to-do list. I believe it sets you up for the whole week, and actually it's the first thing that I like to do on a Monday morning, or when I get into the office, is sit and write down everything, because then you can see it and you can think, okay, am I setting myself up for failure, or is this likely to happen?
And it also enables you to do that really important thing of prioritising. So you go, right, this is my task A, task B, task C, and I've just started using the Pomodoro technique stuff, which I know Penny's been using as well. So rather than actually write out how long next to each task I think it's going to take, you just draw a picture of a couple of tomatoes. And then you know that that's going to take 2 Pomodoro sessions, which is about 50 minutes. And I also feed into a master task list, which I do keep electronic just because it moves around so much, which I use Wunderlist for, which means that there's this background thing already there, but it means you go through one set of overview, I'm never going to get all that stuff done, task list, write down the important things, prioritising in that way, and then my actual day list, I then prioritise going, what do I really need to do today?
And I think this is the interesting thing about these systems, is that everyone uses them really differently. I have a really simple system which involves my bullet journal, my actual paper diary, and then a reminder on my phone. So I live my life through reminders on phones, in the sense of when am I next going to be either sat at my desk or at a place where I can do this. I set the reminder. If I can't do it then, I then set it for another time, or I do it. My favourite thing is to do it as soon as I'm given it, or as soon as I realise I have to do something with it. I'm one of those people that I will be, so we just email that, okay, just stop a second, let me do that now. Because I know if I add it to a to-do list, it suddenly becomes I have 15 minutes of these little jobs that actually if I'd have just done them there and then, it would have been sorted and that would have been it. So I have a very simple, list in my bullet journal, to-do list on my phone, diary, and that's pretty much it.
That's interesting actually, because I just to fill into that, I've been recently with doing those kind of few minute tasks and also having my Pomodoro stuff when you get a 5-minute break in between each one. I have one list of main tasks and then little things that I need to do on the side, like send so-and-so an email.
Yeah.
And I put that on one side, so when I pause for a task, I literally go, I'll do that email. Or it's personal stuff where I go, I've got 5 minutes, I'm going to get up from my desk, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go and do this.
It's made me think about a lot more about how I plan my day, my week and my month. So similar to you, what I do is I have a daily to-do list. I have my monthly overview, but I do that in an app. So I use Wunderlist, which Jonny actually introduced me to. And I also use Alarmed, which is this cool little app that for your regular things. So like if you need to, when you get in, the alarm will go off if you're in either a location. So if I need to buy something whilst I'm in a shop, or if I need to phone someone at a particular time, it's a really easy way of just tracking what you need to do and making sure that you've got you're least likely to forget it.
Yes.
And then I just on my bullet journal becomes what am I going to do today? And then there's some days, those days like if you've got a big event on, or you're going to be training all day, that you still need to get some certain things done.
Yes.
And I used to feel like I used to have a whole page full of stuff in order to feel productive, whereas now it's just, right, well, what are the 3 most important things I need to get done today, whether that's personal or professional. So when that hustle and bustle of getting something done for a big event, I don't forget those 3 most important things.
And I think there is, when you're doing a lot of things, whether you're running a business or you're self-employed or you work for someone else and you've got lots of things going on in your head, actually having a place to write it down or a system so you don't forget them. Because I think people often worry that they've forgotten something. It's the worry of worrying. And I think actually if you have that system and it works, and it's different for everyone, and you just have to be aware of what your faults are, what you're likely to forget and how you're likely to forget it, and try and combat that, particularly when you work on your own or you're working on like small projects, and if you don't do it, no one else will. It's that whole thing of and I think that's the key when it comes to this sort of organisation, is knowing what your weaknesses are, but also knowing what's going to work. Because there's no point, there are some things there, like I love the idea of an alarm going off in a certain place to remind me, but I've tried things like Wunderlist. I've got a number of different apps that do that sort of thing for me, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I don't do it as a to-do list on a daily basis. I need my bullet journal.
Yeah.
But what I have been able to use Wunderlist for was the thing that the bullet journal doesn't give me, is the ability to forward plant tasks.
Yes,
So-
which is where my little reminders come in on my phone.
Yeah. So what I use Wonderlist for is I've set up a master task list. I've got each month of the year and then each week. So if there's something that's got a particular deadline in a particular week, I drop it in there because I know that it's going to come up.
And I know you can
use that to do my daily to-do list.
Yeah, because I know you can forward plan tasks in a bullet journal in the sense.
Harder, I think.
Yeah, in your future log.
It's a bit clunky.
I would say that's one of the negatives of it. It's very good for the here and now, but it's not so great for like planning to do something, or even like at a set time, because you it's not an alarm, is it? It's only as good as you make it, and it's only as good as you use it. So if you're not using it every day and you miss that day, you're like, oh, rubbish.
Yeah.
Should have done that.
Yeah, and as well as, because same as Pen, I use my Wonderlist as the overall and the planning into the future task lists, and rather than a paper diary, which I still can't get my head around.
At some point,
I use something
change
called
it.
Google Calendar,
No, really?
which people may have heard of, but I also have an analog version of that. So I'm happy. I'm going to start mentioning Moleskine actually, because it'd be great.
Moleskine.
We're all
We should be
obsessed with
sponsored by
Moleskine, and if we
Yeah.
keep mentioning, there's definitely
Perhaps
sponsors at some
Moleskine
point.
will just send us all of
So
their lovely
I
iPads.
have 3 different size Moleskine books. My biggest one is for taking notes in a meeting, because I know there is a mechanism within
I do
bullet
that.
journaling for taking notes, but I find I take so many notes, it just means that I lose track of my actual tasks in them. So I take notes from a meeting in my larger sized kind of tablet sized notebook, and then the kind of slightly taller, thinner ones that have got
I
the
did look
31
up what
lines.
it was called a few days ago. I can't remember now what it's called. I wrote it in my blog post. It's something. Sorry.
But that allows me to keep the bullet journaling task focused separate, and it's only thin, so if you can fit my bigger notebook in, my smaller one goes in. And then I actually have a pocket sized one, which means that I always have on me some way of noting down a note or a thing so I don't forget. And then I check at the end of my meetings what the action points are,
And put them in
I
your-
write them in as bullet tasks, either into my bullet journal, or if it's we're not meeting for another 2 weeks, it goes into my Wonderlist.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting that having a notebook with you, because I don't have a digital calendar, but I do have a digital notebook.
Same.
I use my notes in my iPhone all the time to like write things down. And I would say it's more, sometimes, you know, when you travel and you have an idea, or you're somewhere and you just think, oh, I need to just like get this down on paper quick. That's what I use it for. And sometimes it's not even about going back and referring back to it, because just the act of typing it means I remember it, and I remember that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And we've been playing with Evernote.
Yes.
And
Oh, I
Evernote's
use
got a great
Evernote,
list facility. But what I've found is, since I've kind of adapted the way that I use Wonderlist, I've now set up my default to be, you know, those on-the-go notes.
Yeah.
So whenever I go, because it just puts them in a default folder. So if I've got time to schedule it, I'll be putting that in the right memory, right place in Wonderlist. But if I haven't, that's really served. So I just literally, the end of my day routine is to go through that and see if I've missed anything.
See, I already use this system, and even listening to you two, I'm thinking, my word, how do I even start this? How do I even set this up? Because I use like 3 systems and that's it. And then like I talk to Jonny or I talk to Pennie, and they've got like 6 million systems that all interact together. And I think the key is just starting it, because
Yes.
I can kind of see, okay, well, I have my bullet journal, I have my reminders on my phone and my notes, right, what's next? And if I don't need anything else, there's no point adding it in. But usually adding a different system comes from a time where you've forgotten something, or something's not been done, or you think, how do I, you know, the Evernote I'm using at the moment for an event to keep together all the articles that I read, instead of having 6 million open screens on my phone or my tablet, just pinning them to the right notebook so I can go back and find them again. That came from needing it. Whereas I've seen Jonny's Evernotes and it's amazing and intricate, and I just sit there and go, how on earth do you even start? And the actual task of starting makes me think, I don't think I want to do that, because that looks like it's a big thing to start. So I just want to encourage people listening that think, wow, okay, these are lots of systems that all link together.
Yeah.
Just find one and
Get a
start
notebook
it.
with a minimum of 31 lines in it, so that you can do the opening 31 days down the page with the days on it, and then turn it over to the next page and write the date I put a checkbox next to the date so I can tick the whole day off.
You can remember you've had that day.
Yeah, and also so I can tick the whole day off. And then literally you just draw a box and put your task next to it. And if there's subtasks, just start it that way, and then you learn the symbols on top of that.
But see, I don't use the symbols. I started off. No, well, it's weird.
I use the symbols.
Some of them I do, and some of them I don't.
I've created my own.
But this is what I think you do. I think once you've used it, you're like, actually, what works. And sometimes you want a really intricate symbol list, Jonny, and sometimes you don't, and that's fine.
I think the other thing is like to point out is that when we're referring to these tools that we cross-reference, so some of them we discovered in our journey trying to get the ultimate organisation.
We used it pre-bullet journal.
Yeah, pre-bullet journal. And then when we got the bullet journal, we switched totally over to bullet journal and then reintegrated the bits that we knew would work and that are quite simple. So we've simplified that process.
So you
but
will
also
probably,
we've been doing it for over a year.
That's well,
so
I'm coming up to like 6 months of using bullet journal as my main thing. And you will hear sounds of people flipping pages and looking through bullet journals, because most people have at least one, if not 4 or 5 Pennie, right?
Yeah, I've got project ones, I've got client ones. Because the system...
And a bag which you carry them all round in.
Yeah, but they're so small, it doesn't matter. And then I've got my meeting one, because, you know, like my actual daily, you know, where is north, what are all the things, that's got... I don't want that to have particularly detailed client information in or personal information.
Do you know what? That's really...
It's a code for me.
I used to write loads in my notebook and not use it. And when I'd like kind of done with a page, I would fold it over. And it was a weird system. It wasn't actually that useful. But I could kind of, because I have a decent enough memory, remember roughly where things are. Which if you do anything, just put an index in your notebook. That's, you know, number your pages, put an index. If there's one thing you do after listening to this podcast, do that, and then at least you can find your notes.
Oh yeah, it's good for retrieval.
But yeah, so I used to like just write everything in there, and there was that satisfaction of writing it. Whereas now I sit in a meeting and I think, actually, what is useful of my time? Is it useful me sitting there writing lots of notes, or am I better listening to people talking and then at the end thinking, right, what are the actions? Because I think often we sit in meetings and we think we should all be typing away, writing notes or writing down things as they happen. And actually you get so much more just by listening. So I think it's helped me streamline, actually, what am I doing? What should I be doing in meetings? Do I need to be sat making pages and pages of notes that I'll probably never refer back to?
So I think most of the type of meetings that I have to go to, there is inevitably a lot of actions as a result. So I do have to take reasonable notes whilst in a meeting. But what I do is when I'm listening out for the action points, it doesn't matter if it's not in a light line, I will literally, above the word, just put an empty square, so that when the meeting's finished, I can then have a look and then easily transfer that to my bullet journal if that's what I need to do. Transfer it to my wonder list if it's a future task, or just go, right, I can make that phone call or send that email now, and I'll tick it off in that box. But either way, in my meeting journal, I've always got boxes ticked, because I know that task has either been done or has been put somewhere else for me to do.
And I feel as well we should be apologising to anyone that's listening that actually works with us and we haven't done something, because we're making it sound like we are really efficient people. And obviously every system has its flaws, and it's usually the human element.
Definitely.
So I apologise if anyone sat there thinking,
why didn't I get
this then through? Or why didn't this happen?
Where's my damn email?
That's when the prioritisation system comes in. If you think about the sheer volume of work and number of projects that we take on, sometimes when you prioritise, you go, right, well, okay, I'm only going to be able to do 10 hours today. What am I going to be able to get done in those? And sometimes some things do get carried forward to the next day, and if you then hit a crisis point in the following day, it gets carried forward. So it can make you, what it does do, I've found, is it's made me commit less.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been a lot more realistic with my commitment, and I have developed, and I think, Jonny, you've taken this on as well, haven't you, where we say, like, we do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it by, or if not, we'll let you know.
Yes.
So we've put that recently, that intervention in. So, because it's all very well planning and organising and prioritising, but if other people don't know what you're doing and why, that's not necessarily a great experience for them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I
concur.
Okay, so if there was one piece of advice or one thing that people should take away from this, what would it be? starting Jonny.
I would suggest buying yourself a lovely moleskin notebook. I also would suggest buying, I always have 3 coloured biros on me, the finest Bic, one of the most famous pens in the world. I know you get your la-di-da overly priced £600 pen on the go from time to time. But yeah, I'm a big believer in, more than one colour so that you can distinguish between things. But the piece of actual advice, regardless of which products you buy, is, other than make sure it has 31 lines, because otherwise a month doesn't fit on, is just get a notebook, watch the video and try it.
Penny?
Same. Watch the video, try that, see how it's working for you. I do use one of those pens. I'm just going to do some clicking.
Oh no.
Yes. So mine has got 6 different
You
colours.
had reference to the 80s and the 90s earlier.
Yes. But what that does do is that because there is so much to do, I've got I write in different colour inks for different coloured things in my journal. So one might be a note to self, about what I've done with that action or something that I need to follow up, and if it's an actual action, that's always in the same colour. So I found that really helped me, but it's a long time getting to that point. For me personally, that works.
So the advice is
Get
a
yourself
coloured pen.
Get yourself one of those pens that's got at least 3 colours in it, so you can switch, because it's a really good way of identifying what you need to do in your book.
As a 7-year-old.
Now then,
Get yourself a
it's
pencil
all
case.
about being organised.
Ooh, a pencil case.
No.
I would probably just keep it simple. Like, don't feel the pressure. Like, I'm sat here with all your beautiful notepads and all your pretty colours.
You've got
and
a pink one.
I have a pink moleskin, people. I love, they do
Other colours are
We need
available.
to stop doing
They
this
do
moleskin
these
thing. Honestly,
pastel
they've not
ones,
paid
though.
us. We would like them to send us a whole load of moleskins, though.
I have these ones, they're pastel ones, and I actually put on my Instagram the other day, which colour should be my next bullet journal out of lavender, peach and pink. Obviously pink won. Like whatever notebook you have, whatever pen, just give it a go, and don't feel under pressure to do like 1,000,001 different trackers and colours and systems, because you'll never keep it up. Just build on it. Start one thing, think, right, I'm going to use this for my to-do lists, and then just start adding things in as you develop new habits.
Yeah, I mean, where we've got to has taken over a year. You've done yours 6 months. So, yeah, and we've kind of... I love Pinterest. If you're addicted to Pinterest, have a look at bullet journals on Pinterest. Like, you'll get journal envy, but at the same time...
There's some really good ideas.
Yeah, you'll pick up 1 or 2 little hints and tips that can take you through on a very simple system.
But don't get fear from all the pretty pictures on Pinterest. Just give it a go.
Some people might find that inspiring.
They might do, but I don't want them to feel intimidated by not being kind of artists capable of kind of great works of art. And yeah, you mentioned trackers there. We haven't really talked about trackers today, but we'll probably do that as another podcast as part of like habit forming.
Yeah, I think this is
spreads. I think.
I think this is kind of introduced. It's really interesting. When I started talking to people about this, I was amazed how many people hadn't heard of bullet journaling but were really interested, and not so much just the variety of different jobs that they did and the sorts of daily tasks that they had to track. And it really interested me how many people could benefit from this. But I think there is a whole other level of like trackers and organisation and just generally getting motivated that we could talk about at some point as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly, on a regular basis, we are asked about what we're doing, how do we do that looks interesting, and that's without mentioning anything.
Yeah.
So we often get asked to give people, and that's the great thing, you can show someone how to do this in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a complicated.
In fact, someone bought me a notebook and gave it to me as a thank you because
That's
they'd
right.
sat next to me while I was taking notes in a meeting or an event, and they asked me what it was, and I literally explained what it was in 2 minutes. They went, brilliant, I'm going to go and look it up. And then next time I bumped into them, they were like, actually, I've got a present for you, gave it me and went, thanks for introducing me to bullet journaling. Thanks, Mark.
I get asked at least once a week what my colour coding is on my notes.
And this is the most read post on my website. I wrote about, I found it out from Jonny. I put together like a 5 minutes, probably the worst written post ever, of just like, this is bullet journaling, wow, I've just found it, like really excited. And it was like, people were so interested and I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, I felt really bad that it had only taken me 5 seconds to put it together and was probably really horrible to read. I apologise.
But yeah, give it a go and you'll find the way that it works for you.
Thanks for listening to us ramble.
Thanks for listening.
No,
We'll
I don't
come up
like
with better. We'll come up with better sign-offs for next time.
Yeah, Jonny wants catchphrases.
How can you not have a catchphrase? You get to pretend you're on Anchorman.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Yeah, so, well, thanks for listening. And if you have a look at the bottom of the YouTube where all the notes are, you'll find a reference to all of the things that we've mentioned, including moleskin.
Not that we're sponsored.